Greetings to all. My name is Heidi Bash-Harod, and I proudly serve as the Executive Director of Women's Voices Now, where we use film to drive social change that advances girls' and women's rights globally. Today, I have the distinct honor of kicking off with a special guest our 12th annual Women's Rights Documentary Film Festival, the 12th edition of the Women's Voices Now Film Festival, live from Los Angeles, California. It's an honor to have you with us. I cannot believe that this day has come. Before I get into the program, I want to give a special thanks to our programs assistant, Sage Mendez, who has been with me shoulder to shoulder, making sure to get this film festival up and off. So there's Sage to say hello. And I need to thank Lamine Ascofare, who's our digital growth strategist, who is incredible in setting up our film festival portal and our website and the way that you're going to be watching the films for the next month. Please know that we are a small but mighty organization, and it may take us a moment to get back to you if you have any technical difficulties, but I promise that we are doing everything we can to make sure that you have your access to the films that are competing in this film festival. I would love to now introduce the festival's theme, which is called Forward in Her Footsteps. If you're new to the festival, we do a global call for submissions to the Women's Rights Film Festival that we run. We do not set a theme going into it, because what happens inevitably every year is that a theme arises from the film festival. And if you're anyone and someone, and you probably are if you got a ticket to this film festival, paying attention to what's happening in the realm of women's rights globally, no matter where you're from, we know we've made progress because we are in a time of great backlash. And there is a lot of pushback against all of the advancement that women and girls have made globally. And it's a difficult time for many people in the world, not just women, but we're focusing on women and girls in our film festival. So what we noticed as we were previewing the films is that there were so many spotlight films, biopics on women who've come before us or women who are blazing the trail right now among us. Even though it's a difficult time and there's a lot of fight that has to happen to keep our ground, we found so much inspiration from all of the women that we learned about in these films. So Forward in Her Footsteps is really the incredible theme that arose from the selection this year, showing that we can't give up. Quite simply, we can't give up, and we can draw courage and inspiration from those who have fought the fight before us, who are fighting it today. And if they can continue to do what they're doing to make the world better for us all, then we have to do what we can too. So a reminder that there are about 39 films competing in this film festival from 26 countries. We are awarding 8 cash prizes that are decided by a festival jury who you'll meet on April 29th at a later film festival event. They are incredible productions. They are documentary films. And the most important thing to remember is to take care of yourself as you're watching these films. They are not easy to watch. Some are very exciting and have happy endings, others do not. And it's a lot to take in. So what I always tell everyone in the film festival, from the previewers to the jury members to the board members who also do internal previewing, it's very important to take care of yourself as you're watching these very intense and authentic films. And also I hope that you learn a lot. I hope that you'll share about the festival, whether it's on a comment in social media or it's an email to me or to anyone on the team. We'd love to hear your experience of the films. A couple more housekeeping items before. Today the film festival opens. You now have access to all of the films that are available this week, or if you have a higher tier ticket, then you have more films available to you sooner. You're always able to upgrade in real time. That is a possibility. Our following film festival events will be on April 29th, when you will meet the festival jury, who will have a conversation about the theme, about what they saw in the films this year. They will speak to the strengths of the filmmakers, what they hope to see for the future of many of the filmmakers that are competing in the festival. So please tune in on April 29, also at 11 a.m. Pacific time. You will receive a Zoom link before that event. May 6th, we have an industry chat where we will be discussing ethical deep fakes. So how can we use generative AI authentically and with integrity in documentary filmmaking? We have 2 special guests from Generative AI for Good and a very special WVN community member who will be moderating that conversation. And then May 13th, we have our live awards ceremony where we will announce the winners of the cash prizes, all at 11 a.m. Pacific time, and just like this on Zoom. Just so you know, there is the chat is open, so if you have questions at any time or want to let us know where you're tuning in from today, it's always really special to see where different people are coming from to this Women's Voices Now Film Festival. So without further ado, I am going to now introduce our special guest for today. Today, we are so honored to have Brit MacRae, who you may also already know as the executive producer of Undertone, a film that was made on a very modest budget and has gone on to gross over $19 million at the box office in just 3 weeks. And that's happening in real time as we're talking here. What you may not know is that in 2022, she co-founded Kino, a venture-backed film company with the mission to create gender equality for artists in the film and television industry. During the Hollywood strikes, Brit shared publicly that she had received a residual check for 2 cents. She spoke about this not because she wanted sympathy, but to make a point that resonates very deeply with our work at Women's Voices Now, and especially our film festival, where we're promoting women filmmakers and their efforts to make their films and bring them in the world, but that the people who create this work, these films, should share in the profits and in the successes of what they create. So for those of you meeting Brit MacRae for the first time, she is a Canadian-American marketing strategist, film and TV producer and actress. And while studying psychology at university, she became CMO of Casting Central, Canada's largest casting facility, where she oversaw major studio projects, including The Boys, The Handmaid's Tale, and Suits. During her decade there, she created and sold a film tech app used by actors and casting directors globally. She's been busy. And in 2018, Brit moved to Los Angeles and works as a producer and production manager at the Woo Agency, where she led multi-million-dollar campaigns for global brands such as Lenovo, DeLonghi, LA Fitness, and Bosch. She also is an award-winning actress and producer who has appeared in projects from major distributors, including Netflix, Amazon, and NBC Peacock. Brit, I don't know how you do all these things. So, Brit, without further ado, again, I would love to welcome you to the Women's Voices Now Film Festival. I invite you to turn on your camera, and Sage, if you make sure that we both have the spotlight, I would be very grateful to you.
Oh, thank you for that lovely. Can you just follow me around everywhere?
Yes, gladly.
Incredible, incredible. And I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much for including me. I am such a massive believer in the mission, and I feel like the theme for this year is perfect.
Thank you, Brit. It's really a pleasure to have you here. I read your bio, obviously, in preparation for today, but really reading it out loud, I hope you're so proud of yourself, and you are truly an inspiration, and I hope that our filmmakers especially see what's possible when you put your mind to something.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So we're gonna learn a little bit about your journey. I want to talk about the film festival, about Forward in Her Footsteps, just for a moment. You're a wonderful example of a woman whose footsteps we can find inspiration and resilience in following. So I want to know if you can share with us, when you knew what you wanted to do and who you wanted to be, who were some of the people's whose footsteps you followed in?
Yeah, well, you know what's interesting? It wasn't, I think even with the bio, nothing's been linear. Like I didn't set out thinking, I want to be in film and television. I feel like it was always deep down. I always secretly wanted it, but the pragmatist was like, no, you have to, at the time, this is pre-university, I was like, you have to, go and get a real job. You have to grow up, choose a stable path. I promise I will get to answering your question, but I ended up at a movie theater in my 3rd year, and I saw the animated film Inside Out. I remember at the time just being in this, this theater, and there was somebody in the same row as me, and I watched as they laughed and cried and felt everything they needed to feel. And when the credits rolled, I was like, man, this person just let themselves feel what they needed to feel in the security of this dark theater, and they're going to walk out and they're going to be different. They're going to be changed. They're not going to know why they're changed, but subconsciously they're changed because of the story that's on the screen. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much more powerful than any talk therapy I could ever offer. And that was what I initially thought I was going to do. And I was like, movies change culture. It changes the way perspectives. It changes everything. This can change millions and millions of people. And so that was sort of my first aha, I think I want to do this. And then it just became, because I wasn't born into an industry family. It's not like I knew anybody in the film and TV industry. I was roughly around it because I grew up in Toronto. So I grew up in a little mini film hub in Canada, but it's not like LA where the whole the city is the industry, you know what I mean? And so then it just became, how am I going to meet the movers and shakers and try to build authentic human connections to help build a bridge into this world, because I feel like I'm over on an island and I know nothing. And so I think the first person that I shout out I shout out all the time is the first woman I met when I first got to LA. She was a executive producer named Lorna Paul. And this woman she just took the biggest chance. I remember showing up, I had a friend I knew one person in LA when I first came to LA, and he was like, Brit, I think you should meet Lorna Paul. And I'm like, I'll meet anybody. Like, you tell me who to meet, you tell me when and where, and I am there. And I ended up showing up at this, thinking I was going for lunch. He was like, okay, this date, this time, you're having lunch. And I showed up at this massive advertising agency. And I remember walking in thinking like, maybe there's like a coffee shop in the back. Like, I don't know, right? One person came and they're like, do you have a reliable vehicle? And another person's like, have you ever worked in film? And Lorna comes in like a tornado, asks me 75 questions and is like, can you start on Monday? And I was like, doing what? Sure, I'm there. And so I started that Monday as like a baby PA, and then worked my way up to production coordinator, and then continued to, climb the ladder up at the agency. But she is somebody who I learned so much from, because it was just like complete and utter immersion. And, it's funny at the time, like after I had my big aha, I want to, do this, and having to navigate, how am I going to move to the US and all of the like it was a whole process, even just to make the decision, to make the jump, and then figure out how to do it. But yeah, if you would have said to me, hey, Brit, you're going to start in advertising, I would have been like, what? Absolutely not. No, I'm not. But I'm so grateful, because we were on these 2-week commercial sprints, and I learned so much through that process. Like, whether we were dealing with like a big budget rollout or a super tiny digital social ad with a really modest budget, we had to figure out how we were going to make client happy, how to make them, okay, your ideas are this big, but your budget's this small. How are we going to sort of strike a compromise? Like, it was just so valuable. And that was all thanks to her. She took the biggest chance on this kid who had never done anything really in production. And so that was wonderful. And then on a larger scale, I always look at Reese Witherspoon. Like, I feel like Reese Witherspoon's always my like, I want to find projects, and I love unique IP. I love that she's built a community. She is pulling from, I love reading in my limited spare time, but it's like, I love that she finds stories and then she helps to amplify. And sometimes there's a role that she's right for, and other times she's not right for it, and that's she puts people she loves and trusts into the story, and I always look at her as like a true north.
I love that. First, that was a great story, but I could see everything you were saying about Lorna Paul. I enjoyed that. Enjoyed that adventure tremendously. I also really loved that you shared that it wasn't you didn't know that you were going to go into this industry from the beginning, that it was not linear. Something in our film festival that we try to make sure that we're attracting filmmakers, women's lives in general are not linear, right? The trajectory can be very circuitous. So I really love about our festival that, a woman can decide at 14 to be a filmmaker, or 95 to finally be to make that film, to get that story out that she's wanted to for her whole life. And just knowing that you don't have to know. And then when you have the aha moment, that you have to find your people who are going to support you, you have to say yes, let the doors open before you, and then step into them, fake it till you make it a little bit sometimes. And just to learn everything that you possibly can. And yeah, Reese Witherspoon is like that supernova, I think that probably keeps people, so many women striving, right? Like, here's what's possible. And I think it's so powerful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. That was just so exciting to hear about too. So my next question to you, so that was like all very positive. So I want to hear a bit about the difficult stuff. So I'd love to know, what were the greatest obstacles that you had to overcome in blazing the trail that you currently walk upon? And adding to that, since you became part of this industry, have you seen any changes for better or worse regarding opportunities for women specifically, or just people in general who, like you said, you weren't born into a Hollywood family, you didn't have the access, you had to create the access for yourself. So obstacles, and then is anything changing better, worse, or whatever you got on that?
I feel like I'm going to be jumping all over the place a little bit, but this is like, on one hand, I feel like I flex between, oh my gosh, I'll have like a dark day and I'm like, the world hates women. I'll think about like women's healthcare, for instance. And I'm like, if a man experienced even like 2% of the pain that a woman experienced in this, there would be like a team of cutting edge researchers like on the case to figure out how to solve it. Right. And so on the one hand, I'm like, on the dark days, I'm like, this is so like, what we just have such an uphill battle, and it feels debilitating at times. But then on the other hand, I'm like, I hate that we will like I sometimes feel irritated by qualifiers, and I'll give an example of this. Like I saw really cool Moroccan film a couple years ago, and the director sitting there at the Q&A, and the moderator kept saying, you know, well, what, as a female director, and as a female director, and as a female director, and it got to the point where I think we were at like the CAA theater or the UTA theater in LA, and it got to the point where the filmmaker was like, I'm just a filmmaker. This is, I don't know what the experience is like to be a man. This is all that I know. This is all I've ever experienced. I'm just a filmmaker. Mm-hmm. And I thought about that so much afterward, being like, right, we've never been like, oh, see, you know, the male director, Steven Spielberg, like we've never done that ever a single time. And so that's also where I'm like, I get like the internal obstacle is like holding both, because both are true. Mm-hmm. And how do we walk the path? And then I also think about with the inner obstacle, like Kino, right, is it's in film, but it's also tech. Both are very male dominated fields. Mm-hmm. And there have been many a VC pitch where I'm hopping on, you know, and I have like 2-3 bros pop up on the screen, and it's me, and behind them it's Yale, Harvard, you know, their degrees, and it's like, and there's just an energy that is like, you're not supposed to be here. And it took a lot of work in therapy and executive coaching to be like, how do I stay in my power to not shrink myself, you know? And even like in the early days, like I would always feel like I needed to find a wingman, like a male ally. Like, okay, if I have this idea and I know it's a good idea, I know in my heart of hearts it's a good idea, if I just say it outwardly, it's probably not going to be heard. But if I go to Bob and I know that Bob thinks this is a good idea, if I then go into the pitch and have Bob go, I think that's a really great idea, Brit, that's awesome, all of a sudden it's heard. And so, you know, and so these are the inner obstacles along the way, right? Where it's like, you know, and it's almost like until this, again, and this is, I'm thinking this through as like the journey of, these are the tactics or the things that I would do until you have whatever validating stamp. And even that can feel fleeting. And like, if it's in the moment, great, you can capitalize it. But then the moment passes and then you're back to being like, hey, Bob, do you want to wingman me on this idea? Like you're back to it. And so that has been, I think, really kind of difficult. And then again, just thinking back to the whole like Steven Spielberg, we would never be like, he's a male director. I'm like, if we're going to do that, then like at least give us our own category at the Oscars. You know, like if we're going to do it, let's, you know, instead of like, if we're going to choose, like words have power, language has power. And if we're going to operate that way, then at least like, let's have some external reinforcement of it. So that's sort of like, I know that's me jumping all over the place, but that's like my inner monologue on any given day, is like all of these different things. I feel like externally, some of like the obvious things are like, you know, obviously I left Canada, which is a smaller market. It's, you know, there's a different financial level in Canada. There's also like, Canada's a very like kind collectivist community. There's a tall poppy syndrome that happens where it's like, hey, no, don't get too big for your bridges. We all need to, you know, we look at our neighbors, we're all nice to each other. We need to make sure we're all growing at the same height and all growing together, which I think is why a lot of people end up, you know, it's why a Ryan Gosling or a Rachel McAdams will come down, they'll make a name, and then they become like these like darlings of Canada. But it's like they didn't break in Canada. They had their break in the US. And so that has been an external obstacle. And I mean, like, you know, I am always trying to find reasons, and I will continue for the rest of my life. I will bring projects to Canada and I will shoot in Canada because I love Canada. I love the industry, but there is a little bit of and I don't know if it's just baked into the fabric of, you know, being kind and polite. But there is something that I had to learn when I first came to the US, where I was like, oh, it's different. Like people in the US, they want to discover you. Like it's like this, like conquering kind of like ethos. They want to find the next big thing. They want to be the one that discovered. And I think there's a protective layer in Canada where people are, maybe it's a little bit more like, I don't I'm not sure. So let's go with the like really obvious choice as opposed to maybe taking a bet on somebody that's new and but has like bold big ideas. It feels maybe a little bit scarier. And so anyway, that's like it's a maybe a little bit of an oversimplification, but that's something like when I came to the US where I was like, oh, I have to kind of like, what does it mean to like be American? Like I'll act like more American, like, and it was like
Learn the culture. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like more of a conscious choice. And then on the last part was presently, like how do I feel now today?
Yeah, about the industry and what's happening and your place in it, and other people like you trying to make their way in and succeeding, and where's it all going? Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I feel like we were making really, really good forward progress. And I feel like, I don't know, and I don't know if this is just like me speaking from a place of intuition. It feels like we're kind of swinging back a little bit where like, and I mean, I'm sure that a large part of this is probably because of, you know, current policies and everything where, you know, we're shutting down DEI initiatives and we're just like, it feels like we're swinging back in not the right direction. And, you know, with the mergers and I don't know, I feel like there's definitely some crunchiness there, but then the instances where I do see it, I feel like it's like these bright shining lights, like, you know, where women break through the cracks and then they just make a castle around it and they're like, come on in. And it's like, that has been super uplifting. And I feel super optimistic about that. And so this is where it's like, okay, yeah. So it's just finding your community, it's finding your tribe, and it's uplifting and it's being intentional about championing. You know, I did a show a little while ago. I just came on as a guest star, but it was awesome because it was I'll call her up, she's amazing. There's two women. Sharon Lewis was the director of the episode and Rabina Lord Stafford was the showrunner. And she had a bunch of female writers and executives, and the whole, like, it just felt like the whole crew was like, I remember going and being like, I just feel so, this set is so calm and I feel so safe. Like nothing was chaotic. And it's because there were a bunch, and like Robina didn't get into the industry till she was in like her late 40s, early 50s. Like she started late and she's show running a show. And like, it was just so cool to be like, yeah, you can do this whenever you want. And it's the people that you're surrounding yourself with, you know, like that's the thing. It's finding the people. And then when you have the moment or you have the opportunity where like you get in, you climb in through the window, you get in through the back door, however you manage to break in, that you're holding the door and you're letting everyone else come in. Like that is I think that has been super uplifting to me, especially when I feel in certain ways like the pendulum might be swinging in the wrong direction.
Wow, you just said so many good things. There's so much to think about there. So I just want to zero in on something really fascinating you said was like in the beginning about like we never say Steven Spielberg, the male director, and like and yet like this whole film festival exists because when women tell their own stories, like the story is different, right? So there is such a tension there and we haven't figured that out. And maybe we're not going to figure that out, honestly, but it's good to have open, honest communication about the tension there. And then what I'm so thrilled to hear you say, and again, about women kind of doing it differently. Like, I love this, like creating the castle and letting anyone, that was such beautiful imagery, like letting everyone in and that a safe, calm set. I work with so many women filmmakers, teenagers, and those later in their lives. And I hear that again and again, that a set that is predominantly women has a different atmosphere and different functionality, and they feel safe and able to really like be themselves and maybe take a little bit of risk professionally that they wouldn't feel otherwise, because that, like you were mentioning the Yale and Harvard thing and like the dude energy. So it's just these are the realities, right? This is sort of the reality of being in a world where women have come a really far way in a very short amount of time, and there's definitely, this is threatening, right? That is very true. Like redistributing power is very dangerous sometimes involved. We see that all over the world, and I don't think we ever get it right. In previous film festivals, it's kind of been this understanding that, wow, there are unintended consequences of our progress too, right? So like we think we solve a problem, but that solution actually creates new challenges. And so the work is never done. It's never just like, great, we've reached utopia here. We've reached nirvana. That doesn't happen, unfortunately. But I think I'm really heartened by what you're saying, your experience about working with women in the film industry, and and women making space, because there was a time when there weren't enough seats at the table, right? And women were sort of like elbowing each other out of the way. And I'm thrilled to hear that that's not your experience. What a beautiful thing. That's really
Thank
beautiful.
you. Thank you. I'll say one other thing on that. When I was when I was at the advertising agency, we got one spot. It was for superhero girls. It was for Cartoon Network. And I remember at the time we talked, Lauren and I, and we were in the team, there was a few other people internally, and we were like, this is for, we were basically taking like these 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old girls, and we were putting them as Wonder Woman. We were making them Bumblebee. Like it was a sort of an homage to superheroes. Mm-hmm. And we were like, let's make every single crew member on this set a woman. From our truck PA to our grips to our gaffers. And it was interesting how, I was like, oh, it's crazy how often we'll just sort of do what's easy. Like, Billy's available, so we'll just use Billy. Mm-hmm. Versus like having to sit down and be like, no, who are the female truck drivers in LA right now? Let's get to know them, and then let's hire them. And it was a massive shoot, and it was so smooth. It was amazing. I remember I was taking a group picture on the last day, and there was like 75 women, all like the full crew. It was awesome. And we continued to use them over time, but it was also like going through the mental exercise of being like, we can be intentional about this, or we could not. We don't have to. This isn't mandated. Mm-hmm. Right. But what if we do the exercise of trying to get to know all of the, all the most badass female grips in LA? Let's do that. Why would we not? Anyway, so that's just one other thing.
That's awesome. I hope that our Girls' Voices, that's our youth program. I hope our participants and alumni get to hear this conversation, because we always tell them, like, you're in Los Angeles. This is a very employable field because of where you live. And just to even hear that, like, people like you are being intentional about who they hire. And there's so many opportunities on a crew, right? There's just so many jobs. This is very happy, Brit. I'm very glad we're having this conversation. I think you touched on this, in your first comments, but let's just like zero in on it for a second. For those seeking a similar path as you, what advice would you give them, both for when things are going well and when things are going tough?
I feel like when I'm having days where I'm like, oh, what am I doing? Should I even be doing this? Do I just like go back to school to do something else? Do I try to break into another industry? I always try to go back to like where the seed of inspiration started. So like for me, that's like, I'll go and see like a live musical, or I'll go to the theater. Like I tried to go back to like the why of it all, like the thing that kind of got me started, because I genuinely feel like you have to be obsessed with this. You have to be obsessed with filmmaking. You have to be obsessed with storytelling. I often would joke when talking to like super young filmmakers, I'd be like, if you want to do anything else, do it. Like it's a hard path. Like we're on a hard, like if you're like, I can't decide, I might want to be a director, or I might want to be a nurse. I'm like, be a nurse. Like if you're not like, this is my all, I'm obsessed with this. This is my calling. Even on the worst days, like I can't imagine doing anything else like that, like I do feel like you have to be obsessed with it. So when I'm feeling that lack of inspiration, or I'm feeling down, I'll typically try to find moments where I can like really dig into what got me all started. Mm-hmm. And then I feel like also from like, that's sort of on like an artist POV is like finding the joy, but from a filmmaker perspective, I think it's also just good to remind yourself that there's always a solution. Like there's always a creative solution. Like whether it's, I have this film and I'm trying to get X amount in funding, and this grant just declined my application. Okay, well, are there brands that I could be trying to activate, or is there a stronger business plan, or how can I start thinking about marketing earlier? Like there's always a creative solution. So that's something. And then also, I mean, I touched a little bit on community, but it's sort of like, who are the 5 people who really inspire you, and get super specific about how to make your world smaller. There's nothing to me that feels more isolating on this journey than when you feel like it's like you alone at home with your screenplay, or it's you alone this industry can be very, very, very isolating when you're not, shooting on set. And we know like the prep process and the post process, like it's a very short window when you're like on set doing the thing. And so I don't know, I feel like, and this might be going too far off the rails, but getting hyper specific in how you reach out to people and how you give people their flowers, but also how you make your world smaller. Like there was a woman a couple of years ago who I just was like super inspired by. And I went, okay, I could go ahead and I could send her a generic email being like, hey, I am so touched by your journey. Love to grab a coffee. Do you have 15 minutes? I could do it. What are the odds are that she's not going to respond? And I had seen that she had written a memoir. And so I read her whole memoir. And as I was reading her memoir, I just let myself sort of like feel, what am I really resonating with? And then I sent a very heartfelt, specific, personalized message. And I didn't ask for anything. That was the key. I feel like so often we go in, obviously, hey, you could help my career go here. You can help my career go. It's never worked for me. Like, I feel like I always am thinking, how can I go into a room having something to offer? What am I coming in offering? And I don't have an expectation about what I'm going to get in return genuinely. And I had a friend a couple weeks ago who was like, this is like really specific, but there's this person in our network who is very, very, very wealthy. And she was like, I always, it's crazy. I saw you at the event and you guys were just talking for hours. Like he never really talks to anybody. And I'm like, yeah, because I have not asked him for $1. That's why. Right. Like there are so many founders that are only ever approaching him when they're like, I have this great business. Do you want to invest? I'd never bring it up. If there is a time and place where he brings, it makes, sure. But I'm not, as often as you can stop trying to see the world as transactional. That's like, I feel like that has been a key, because you end up picking the people around you that you're like, I'm really inspired by, whether it's like the filmmakers that are 2 or 3 steps ahead on the journey, whether it's somebody that's 50 steps ahead on the journey, whether it's somebody who's just like a mentor adjacently. Get really specific, give them their flowers, don't ask for anything. And also, in a world of AI slop where we all know what ChatGPT language looks like, be human and, figure out what your unique contribution is going to be, what you're going to offer them. And that has helped the world, and this industry specifically, feel so much smaller to me and feel so much more intentional and less lonely. So that's kind of, those are some, I don't know if that answered the question. Yeah, that was a lot of talking.
That was great. I think what resonated with me, and it's whether you're in any industry, is the need for connectivity, for connection, and for real interactions with people. That we are in such an abbreviated world, right? We can like speed up our podcasts, speed up our videos, make it go faster, and use the ChatGPT, but the technology changes so much faster than we as humans do, and we haven't caught up to where the technology is, and how worthwhile it is investing in relationships. And again, you may not get it's never making that ask, but for like the big funding thing, but I don't know, the incredible experience of really connecting with another human being, like that's something you cannot put a price on. Like it makes life worth living when it's really ugly out there, and you're like, remember why it's amazing to be a human, when you have a good conversation with someone, and that can keep you going to like the next person that you do have to make that uncomfortable ask of, right? Like, so I don't know, it just and also just learning something. There's something to learn from everyone, and something that you can offer. Like I love like that, going in with what can I offer and what can I receive. Like that's such an important value to have in whatever you do, professionally and personally. All the interactions that we have. Yeah, no, you answered it very, very wonderfully. Yes. So and we're talking a lot. Like this is great, but I have a few more questions, so we'll keep going with our questions.
Yeah.
So the filmmakers that submit their films to this festival, they are primarily independent filmmakers. All their blood, sweat, and tears go into these films. They are sometimes putting their lives at risk as well, because they're telling stories that there's people that don't want those stories to be told. Yeah. So you're experiencing tremendous success with your film Undertone that was made on so it's a horror film about, I have the whole synopsis here, but it sounds pretty incredible. It's a little paranormal. It's a little but it's modern and like talking about, there's a podcast host and there's someone who has to believe what's going on and there's a mysterious anonymous submission of audio recordings. It all sounds like a great novel, by the way. Like it sounds like a good story. And you made this on, we could, for what so it was about a $500,000 budget and it's made about $19 million, over $19 million. That's wild and it's incredible. And we need to hear stories like that because right now, distribution platform, everything, streaming, totally. It sounds impossible, but you've done it. You and your team have done it. So what was the secret sauce? Or what would you say is responsible for this? What did you guys do differently or right that you would want to advise our filmmakers on, even though they're making documentary films, not horror films, but still the same.
Totally. Yeah, totally. We had first, the whole founding of the company was because I was incredibly frustrated with the distribution funnel. Mm-hmm. The post to distribution funnel, it was when all my friends seemed to lose money. And I was getting so frustrated with hearing, oh, well, film, it's just a vanity investment. You might as well flush your money down the toilet. And I was like, no, it's not true. This is a systemic issue where money is funneling to the top. There has to be a better way. And so essentially, at the time, this is the early days of the company, but I really got educated on the distribution funnel, all the different monetization windows, because I'm like, this is where we should be making money, but this is where no one seems to be making money, right? Like the theatrical, SVOD, TVOD, AVOD, PVOD, there's all these VODs that are supposed to be when you make money. And I really wanted to learn and understand sort of what that through line was and where the fractures were. And so then, my brain, I started being like, okay, well, streaming hasn't been around that long. What's their window? Okay, SVOD, streaming video on demand. How'd they come up with that? Oh, they just made it up. It's a made up term. Okay, awesome. Okay, we'll just legalize and make up our own term. So we legalized and coined the term LVOD, which was live video on demand, which basically, meant that we could play nice in the sandbox with all the distributors. We could fit in wherever we needed to fit in. And we created an interactive streaming platform. This is sort of where the company first started. We've pivoted a little bit since then, but we hosted 10 films in 2024 where we had our own, we took control of our own window. I knew what we could do just with our one window. I went, okay, I can't necessarily trust certain other windows, but I know what I can do on my window. So I'm just going to make sure that when we're looking at when films are being submitted, and we'd raised a separate film fund, I was like, I'm just going to make sure that I'm confident that no matter what, we can recoup the budget on our one window. And so I use this as an example because I wanted to make sure that the scripts that we were reading, I read so many scripts. I was like, it has to be contained because of the budget that we're working with. It can't be, like a $2.5 million film that we're going, but we could squeeze it down to $500K. It's not going to work. It has to be like true, like the story has to fit the budget has to fit the story. There has to be harmony there. But what was kind of exciting about this particular one is, I have like theories on theories on theories where we would be here for literally weeks about how I don't think that in 2026, like if you get a star, I don't think it really matters in the same way that it might have mattered in 1992. I just don't. I don't think that people are motivated in the same way. I think that our star system has changed rapidly. So when we were reading all these, we were like, let's just choose the best story and let's put the best actor in the film. They don't have to be Margot Robbie. They don't have to be Brad Pitt. Let's just choose the right person for this particular piece of IP. And the script was amazing. And we were told to pass on it so many times. First time writer, director, one location, one actor on screen the whole time. It's like people were like, this is a recipe for disaster. Say no to it. This is crazy. And it had been passed on. And we were like, but the script was so good. And the director had such clear vision that we were like, we know what we can do. And so I say this, no, I don't think the answer is like, go and build your own distribution platform on, 19,000 devices. Like, no, but I do think that there has to be some forward thinking about how you are going to recoup investors' money from the very beginning. And this is where, the creativity involved in the script or the creativity involved in getting the production going has to be applied to how am I, if I'm, I'm making this up. I have, $1 million script. I am really wanting to try to get this thing greenlit. I'm going to shoot in Canada because I know I'm getting 30 cents on the dollar. Plus I'm going to be able to utilize federal and provincial tax credits. Then, okay, so now I'll apply for Telefilm or Ontario Creates, or I'll apply for some Brit. Now I have roughly, I have half the budget. I'm going to try to get the other half of the budget. How we're put together a business plan or a business deck on how you intend to recoup your investment in the event that you don't have a huge theatrical, or you don't have, like, what are the things you're doing? What are the activations you're doing that are going to generate revenue back into the property that have nothing to do with, crossing your fingers and toes? Because I think the reason why Undertone worked is because we weren't trying to serve all the gods. We were like, okay, this is our baby. We're funding it. So we're able to just creatively make the smartest creative choices. And then we're going to be able to sort of go from there. And we didn't think that, like, it never in a million years did I think that A24 was going to be the one that inevitably ended up buying it. Never in my wildest dreams. But I feel like the reason why we were able to facilitate, and we had 6 studios bidding over it, was because we had, like, the underbelly to be like, well, even if we say no to all these, we're fine. Like, we're fine. We're going to be fine. Wow. So it wasn't like we had to, like, I won't name the studio, but we had one studio offer us sizable amount, not as much as we ended up getting, but a sizable amount a week before we premiered at Fantasia. And I remember at the time being like, oh, wow, we should, like, do we just say yes to this? Because, like, this is great. We're pretty much doubling the budget. Awesome. Like, let's just say yeah. But then stopping and going, no, we don't actually need to, because we feel we have the underbelly of strength based off of the conditions that we manufactured right from the beginning. And I feel like this industry can feel like you have no power. It's like you're just, like, constantly like, please. And it's so, it's disheartening. And so finding ways that you can build in certainty, build in, a little bit. So it feels like when you're going and you're asking for money, or when people are like, oh my gosh, not only are they a brilliant artist, but they've really thought about these things. And also like having the wherewithal that if you're like, oh gosh, I do not have a business thought in my brain that makes me want to cringe. I hate that. I find partners along the journey that can help to, like, I am constantly surrounding myself with around people who are way smarter than me, and it's the best thing that I've ever done. So the key takeaways, I think, are, to be a filmmaker today, you don't necessarily have the luxury of just being a filmmaker. You have to have a business mind. And if you don't have that acumen, then you got to find people to help you. And that it sounds like it's there's such a glut, right, of media. There's so much content out there. So, and it sounds like we got used to like a formula, and some people still think the formula is the recipe to use, but really you can make up your own recipe today. Totally.
That's kind of like the bonus today, or like the unforeseen good thing that's happened is that you don't 100%. Have to focus.
Well, and I think the other unforeseen good thing is that I feel like in a world where, AI is inevitable, human point of view and taste, I think, is going to rise to the top.
I hope and agree. I agree and hope.
I'm like, I find moments where I'm like, no, Brit, don't put this into ChatGPT. What do you think? What is your opinion? Continue to sharpen your opinion and your point of view. The reason why Undertone, the script was so good, had such a strong point of view. There was nothing like it. Some of the other projects that we've continued to greenlight, really strong points of view. And I feel like the more human we can continue to be with our art, the better. And so, just strengthening the point of view, really checking in. How do I actually feel about that? I think is going to be a long game play.
Oh, I hope you're right. That makes me feel better about all the things. So that's good. That's good stuff. I'm going to take the opportunity to see if there's something in the Q&A. What are your thoughts on finding mentors or mentorship if you are so early in your career that asking for funding is not an immediate ask that even comes to mind when reaching out to people? Is it okay to reach out and ask for mentorship? If you still think it is better to cultivate a relationship first, how do you approach building a relationship with a career expert when you are a beginner in the industry? It's a good question.
Yeah.
Long and
Great
good question. Yeah.
Great question.
Thank you, audience member, for that question.
My one of the best hacks that I have, and it's funny in my friend group, I'm always laughed at. Master the art of the cold outreach. The more, again, the more human, the better. But I feel like also, and this might be a little overly simplistic, but this is what I have done. When I first got started, I would, compile a list of directors, producers, actors, filmmakers, people that I was like really inspired by. And I would, start with the people that are a step or two ahead. Doesn't have to be that you're like, I wasn't DMing Reese Witherspoon, and I wasn't expecting that Reese Witherspoon was going to DM me back. But there are people that you're like, oh my gosh, this filmmaker, for me, it was like this filmmaker in Toronto is amazing. Get hyper specific about what it is about them and their career and their journey that inspires you. Watch their stuff, right? If you're going to be reaching out and you're going to be saying like, hey, oh my gosh, the goal is to get a coffee or is to spend time together. Watch their TV show that they directed. Watch the movie that they produced. Hey, I saw this. Give them their flowers. I feel like, especially when people are, this might just be my philosophy, but this has been true for me across the board. People do love to give back. Like mentorship, like I've never had somebody, approach me in a really beautifully specific, personalized way and me not respond. Like it's never happened. I've always been willing to hop on a call, always been willing to hop on a Zoom. And that's been true for me across the board. I think when it feels generic, when it's like, oh, this could just be a copy paste. They came up with like 3 sentences and then they just like threw it in a CRM and shot it out to 500 people hoping for a bite. That's where I feel like avoid. But also, what I would say too is, as you're thinking about who you could reach out to that's maybe a step or two ahead of where you are today, also think about who you can give back to that might be a step behind you. Like this year, I was really thinking quite a bit on, this is actually last year, I was thinking a lot on mentorship. And I became a big sister through Big Brothers Big Sisters LA. This is like very, hyper specific. It's not necessarily industry specific, but I was like, I would love to have, like, I think that if I can hang out a few times a month with a really cool 11-year-old girl and change her life, then great. I should absolutely be paying it forward and contributing, and so that's something I would also add to it, is like, as you're doing this, like with the good energy that you're putting out there, also think about how you can be contributing, and it doesn't have to be industry specific. It can be more generalized.
I think it's a very good answer. I hope that was satisfying. That was satisfying to me. Yes, I think also, as when you're asked your story and to have the opportunity to reflect on like how far you've come, like as a mentee, you give something to your mentor to be able to like kind of like reflect on their journey. It's pretty incredible to be able to, and to not realize like just existing sometimes, living life and the ups and downs. We have so much to offer, and to the people that are earlier along in their journey.
Yeah. One other thought on it too is, at a certain point mid last year, I stopped asking people for advice and I started asking them for stories. Because I feel like what sometimes happens is, if somebody offers you advice, there's an expectation that you should follow their advice like it's the gospel. Right. And everyone's journey is so different that sometimes that doesn't work. But when somebody shares an anecdote or a story, instead of like, this is what to do, take these steps, and if you don't follow those steps perfectly, it's like there's like there could be a weird underlying tension. You can derive your own roadmap from the story, and it feels also, people love sharing stories. Like, so that's also just in under the umbrella of mentorship and approaching people when you're grabbing coffee. Get wildly curious and ask them different stories about their journey, not just generalized like, hey, do you have any advice for somebody? You know what I mean? Like it really does help.
Yeah, do your homework and your research. Genuine. Yeah, I think that's That's very solid advice that you just gave, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. Well, Britt, we're almost at the hour, so I am deeply grateful for the generosity of your time because I know that
Likewise.
I have to try to get you into our Girls Voices Now program in the summer. You might have to meet
I would love that.
our rising filmmakers because I know that they would benefit greatly from you. I also forgot to thank one person who's the person that put us in connection, which is Vjosa Turkini, our European liaison. You two met at Cannes, I believe, because she's all over the world all the time. So Vjosa, thank you for bringing Brit to us. Brit, thank you for saying yes and for kicking off our 12th film festival together. I invite you to remain in the Women's Voices Now family for as long as you would like.
And I will be.
I'm just thrilled to know you, and I've learned and gained so much from our conversation. And I feel happy. I feel inspired. And right now the world is so hard. So this was really good. I needed this. So thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me. I cannot wait to watch the films.
Yes, I got to get you that ticket. We're going to do that. Yes.
I love it.
Yes. So any final words to the audience before we part ways and I do the wrap up and the housekeeping again?
No, just keep on the journey. Keep on the journey. Keep doing your thing. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Britt. We appreciate you, and I'll be following up shortly. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Heidi.
Brit, hope you have a good rest of your day.
All right, everyone. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed our kickoff event for the 12th annual Women's Voices Now Film Festival. I want to thank you for supporting the festival. If you have any access issues, please email events@womensvoicesnow.org. Perhaps Sage can put that into the chat. It's also in the automatic emails that you're getting about the films. There's always, if you need any help, events@womensvoicesnow.org. We're looking forward to hearing again your reactions to the films and your experiences, comments, questions, suggestions, feedback. We're always open and ready for that. As a reminder, please join me and the jury on April 29 for our the films through the eyes of the jury. I'd be delighted to have you again. Thank you for tuning in, and remember to take care of yourselves watching the films. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Good day, good evening to wherever you are, and thank you so much for being with us at Women's Voices Now. And take care. Bye-bye, everyone.